This just in. Ryan Day and the other Ohio State football coaches are pretty good at this recruiting thing. And what took place just a day ago confirms the statement I made.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Thursday, December 15th in the year 2022, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. During this episode, we will discuss the health of Cam Brown, Mike Hall, and Mayan Williams, and Steele Chambers makes a decision about if he will stay in school or if he will go to the NFL at the end of this season. But before we get to any of that, Ohio State football coaches, they know a part of their job is recruiting elite athletes daily, consistently, because the grind and the battle on the recruiting trail never stops. Ryan Day knew when he came in as Ohio State head coach, he'll be taking over after Urban Meyer took Ohio State to another level after Jim Tressel was no longer a part of the program. And Ryan Day knows he has to bring in guys that can recruit. And what just took place a day ago showed us some things that are working very well for Ohio State, as they not only picked up a quarterback commit in the 2023 recruiting class, they also picked up a wide receiver commit in the 2024 recruiting class in the same day. The 2024 news is huge. Jeremiah Smith, wide receiver, plays for Sean Madonna down in South Florida, 6'3", 185-pound wide receiver. We discussed him with John Garcia Jr. Go back, look at the episode. If you're on the YouTube, there's actually a playlist that has all the recruiting updates with John Garcia Jr. on there, and go check it out. I believe Jeremiah Smith's episode where we discussed him actually has his name in it, along with other recruits, his name being in the title. But John Garcia Jr., him and I talked about the playmaking ability and the playmaking assets and Jeremiah Smith's ability to go get the ball. We also talked about how, if you look at the recruiting rankings via 247 Sports, he's a number one ranked player in the state of Florida, the number one receiver in the country, and also in this same class, the number two recruit in the entire country in his class, behind only Dylan Raiola, another Buckeye commit. So there's a notion there of people saying Ohio State recruiting is broken or something's wrong or NIL this or NIL that. Well, something y'all are saying, not saying you specifically, but something some people are saying might not be as true as what they think it is, because I don't think the recruiting is broken. Yes, things can be tweaked, but they can always be tweaked. NIL being present or not, things can always be tweaked in the recruiting space because things are ever changing. And Jeremiah Smith committing to Ohio State, that's something I think we're going to get 2, maybe 3 more commits over the next maybe 3 months at the receiver position, because 1, you got your quarterback, 2, you got the best receiver in the country, and if you're a receiver, 1, you want to play with the best. Dylan Raiola is truly, to me, one of the better quarterback prospects I have ever seen out of high school. And you want all the receivers surrounding Jeremiah Smith that complement his skill set so that when they're on the field together, they do big, amazing things all the time. The other commit came from Lincoln Kienholz. Now, this one's interesting because he was previously committed to the University of Washington, the Huskies, where Michael Penix Jr. was phenomenal. Some said he should have been a Heisman Trophy finalist over C.J. Stroud. And to be honest with you, I think there's an argument to be made for Penix Jr. in New York during the Heisman ceremony and not C.J. Stroud, Ohio State's QB1, based off how they played the football in 2022. Lincoln Kienholz, a three-sport athlete, all-state in basketball, could have played D1 baseball, could have played D1 basketball from South Dakota. Yeah, this man is from South Dakota. He's a dog, 6'3", 185 himself, just like Jeremiah Smith from T.F. Riggs High School there in Pierre, South Dakota. A 4-star recruit. Now, I don't want to put much weight in stock, as many of you know, in the star rating system. I'll tell you this, John Garcia Jr. made a comment saying he's from South Dakota. Many of you don't know, John Garcia Jr. is the Locked On Recruiting Insider. We try to get him on as frequently as we can to get John's insight and updates and intel into the world of recruiting. And John made a comment about Lincoln Kienholz, and I believe it's true. If this kid played in, let's just say, the same state Jeremiah Smith plays in, if Lincoln Kienholz played in Florida, I guarantee you, one, he is a top 100 recruit. He's not that right now via the composite rankings on 247 Sports. He's ranked in the top 10 of all quarterbacks. I mean, he's up there. Probably top. I mean, he's up there. His film is amazing. He's a straight athlete. I don't believe he's going to be a player who's going to play basketball and football or baseball and foot. I don't believe he's going to be a two-sport athlete at Ohio State. I know when DeJuan Jones came in, yes, basketball was his first love, and I know he was probably wondering, can I play ball in the Big Ten and play football at Ohio State? Ultimately, football won over once he fell in love with the sport. JT Tuimoloau. He was a dog on the basketball court in high school. And it was a thought when he came to Ohio State that he could play both ways. Both sports. Ultimately, he is sticking with the football, which I believe is the better of the two sports that we are discussing him play. Lincoln Kienholz, if you want to see how much of a dog he is, go to the YouTube. Go there, check it out. Let your own eyes tell you what he does on the field that he's playing, and you'll quickly see Lincoln Kienholz is a dog. He can spin that thing, has a nice arm to him, has great athleticism, brings a different skill set than Devin Brown and even Kyle McCord bring to the table. So I do think the quarterback competition at Ohio State and during spring practice in 2023 got a little bit more spicier because you have somebody that has a different skill set. It can do different things on the field than the two quarterbacks at Ohio State can do right now. Two commits in the same day that are this caliber. Where does this happen? Not many places, but one of them is Ohio State. In recruiting, it's not broken at Ohio State. Ryan Day and these coaches are doing a phenomenal job, and I do expect a few more guys in the class of 2023 to commit to Ohio State very, very soon. Damon Wilson, Mateo Uiagalelei, they are still up for grabs at the time of this recording. Hey, you never know. The next time Jake gets behind the mic, you might be discussing, hey, a Damon Wilson or a Mateo Uiagalelei commit, or maybe even Samson Okalola. Trust me, there's a lot going on right now in recruiting, and it showed up on Wednesday as Ohio State got not one commit from an elite player, but two. Speaking of elite players, there will be some elite players on the Ohio State football team. They'll be healthy, very healthy for the game against Georgia. Who are they? We will discuss that next right here on Locked On Buckeyes. You're hanging out with some friends and putting back a few drinks. A few because a few too many. As the evening comes to an end and people start to head out, you think of calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. You can make it home okay. It's no big deal. What are the odds you'll get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you total your car, you kill someone. Everyone knows about the risk of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. So the health of Buckeyes is something that everyone is discussing and everyone is thinking about. What's going on? We got the update with Jackson Smith and Jigba a week ago. We got the update with Travion Henderson this week. Both of those players would not be playing in the college football playoff, no matter if it's the Georgia game or the Natty. The Buckeyes will be without number 11 and number 32 for the rest of the season. But what about guys like number 26, number 51, and number 3? Who are those players? Cam Brown, Michael Hall Jr., and Mayan Williams. What's up with them? Ultimately, those are things and these are questions we all want answers to. What's up with Mayan Williams? Why was he able to start the game against the Wolverines, but ultimately, why wasn't he able to finish it? Why has Mike Hall been on the pitch count? Why is Mike Hall's pitch count different than Travion Henderson's pitch count? And they both have injuries, nagging injuries. One's having surgery. One player I don't believe has had surgery. What's going on there? What is going on with Cam Brown? Why is he in the lineup, out of the lineup? Why was he pulled from the game against the Wolverines? What's going on? Injuries happen, man. They're a part of the game. And ultimately, I believe it's a part of the game. These players are up to it. And you're looking for these players to be as close to healthy, but the expectation is for them to be fully healthy for the college football playoff. That's correct. Cam Brown, Michael Hall Jr., and Mayan Williams, expect them to be fully healthy for the game against the Georgia Bulldogs in the college football playoff. Here is Cam Brown discussing an injury he suffered in the game and his thoughts about it and really expressing an emotion about it as well. Quote, it was nothing much. It was more annoying than anything that I couldn't just go out there and finish, but it's all right. I'm not dwelling on it no more. I'm glad I got another chance. So I'm just going to go out there, give it all I can, end quote. And honestly, I say maybe this might be a cliche answer or response, but that's what you want. You want him to be ready. You want him to go out there and give it all he can, give it all he has. You don't want guys going out there against Georgia just going through the motions, or whatever happens, or no, I still got next year, or no, I know this is gonna be my last game, but I got to worry about my kid in his schooling tomorrow, and he has homework to do, bro. It's winter break. No, he still got homework to do, and this and that. No. Lay it all on the line. You're playing for a trophy. Yes, as weird as this is, and I did not understand this when the CFP, the college football playoff, was initially instituted. I knew they were playing the semifinal games at bowl sites. I didn't realize the bowl trophy still goes to the team that wins the game. I did not realize that. So to me, it's the playoff. Yes, you're using the venue, using the committee, the Rose Bowl committee or the Peach Bowl committee, whatever it is. You're using those committees to organize the game and to get everything going. But how about you? I didn't understand. I had no idea when they first instituted it that they were still going to be like, oh, well, you won the Sugar Bowl. This ain't no regular Sugar Bowl. It's different than because the regular Sugar Bowl does not have a Big Ten team in it. It does not. Doesn't have it. This ain't no regular Sugar Bowl. This ain't no regular Rose Bowl. This ain't no regular nothing. If you're in the semifinal round of the playoff, it was different to me in the beginning. I didn't understand it. I still am kind of baffled that the CFP is still using the bowls in this way. We'll talk more maybe next week about how I think the playoff can be tweaked. Even if with the new format that's going to start very, very soon, I still think there are ways to tweak the playoff to make the sport even better. But Cam Brown, I desperately think that Ohio State needs Cam Brown desperately right now. I don't know if people fully understand how bad Cam Brown's injuries and absences from the lineup have really impacted his play. his positive plays, but also the negative plays. If you're not out there, if you're constantly battling injury, and when you're out there, if you're thinking about something else, it does mess up your mind. Now, tracking the ball. Now, Jeff Hunt and I discussed last week. I said this team is bad at tracking the ball. Jeff said, yes, tracking the ball in general. They're really bad at tracking the ball in the air for the secondary. Now, it's not an easy thing to do. If you've ever played backyard football, pickup football, played in the sandlot, two-hand touch, flag, whatever it is, and it's one-on-one in a jump ball, imagine running hip-to-hip with somebody full speed as fast as you can and realize you have to turn your head, track the ball, hands up. If you need to go run through their hands, run through the receiver's hand. It's hard, man. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's really hard. But you're expected to do it. Like, no matter how hard it is, overcome the obstacle and just get it done. That's what you're here to do. But ultimately, it was a battle for a lot of the people involved. But Cam Brown being back is big. Also, Michael Hall Jr., because I think Mike Hall, when there is no pitch count, when you just let him loose, you let the dog out the cage, buddy, you're going to be hard-pressed to find two guys on the same team that can consistently perform successful double-team blocks on Michael Hall Jr. One of the things that I love about him that wow me every time I watch him play the football is that Mike Hall splits double teams like it's his job. Mike Hall splits double teams like some people do push-ups very easily. Mike Hall Jr. splits double teams like, hey, this is just a walk in the park. This is what I do. Mike Hall Jr. he's just that guy. Now, he has other moves. He's quick. He's undersized a little bit, but he still gets the job done. But when you let the dog out the cage, and he's been cooped up in that cage for quite a long time, that boy hungry. He's finding food. He's finding water. He's finding more food. He's finding more water. Where does Michael Hall get his food and his water? In the backfield. So I really hope Stetson Bennett is ready. I think a bright spot on the D-line is Michael Hall Jr. starting. I understand the rotational defense, especially at D-tackle. I think this team is going to flourish with Michael Hall Jr. starting. Also, it's going to flourish with Mayan Williams at the back of the starting lineup and being healthy, because if that meant, bro, if you get Michael Hall Jr. on the D-line and Mayan Williams fully healthy at running, bro, I'm not telling you who I think is going to win the game against Georgia. Ultimately, think about this. A healthy Mayan Williams is scary. We saw that earlier this year. A healthy Michael Hall Jr. is scary. We saw that earlier this year. You have him on one guy on the D-line, one at the running back. That opens up so much for your playbook offensively and defensively in different wrinkles that maybe Ohio State has not used all year and Georgia may not have seen all year. Man, let me tell you, this game is going to be fun to watch. Talk about the matchups and the star power and the future NFL players that'll be on this field on New Year's Eve. This is what college football is made for. This is what bowl games are all about. And I cannot wait to see a healthy Mike Hall Jr., a healthy Cam Brown, and a healthy Mayan Williams on the field for the Ohio State Buckeyes in the college football playoff. This college football playoff, some thought it might be Steele Chambers' final playoff game and final game as a Buckeye, or some thought that he would stick around for another year in college football. It would be his fifth. We'll discuss what his answer is, how he's eligible for a fifth year, and also why I think it's important that why the decision that he made is really important for his future as a football player. Guys, we got a whole lot to cover. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. This is Locked on Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season to basketball and World Cup. We've got it all at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and the easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So Steele Chambers is a player currently in his 4th year as a Buckeye. We all have heard the story. First 2 years at Ohio State, he played on the offensive side of the ball, had an injury which kind of hindered his progress as a second-year player. Would he end up being a player who got touches and carries and reps at the running back position in year 3? Or would he be somebody who ultimately transfers? No, he ended up switching positions. He ended up going from running back in his first 2 years, going to linebacker, a position he played in high school, a position that recruiting analysts said, hey, your best position in college might not be running back. It might be at linebacker on defense. Lo and behold, there was an opening. There were lots of openings at linebacker last season, and Steele Chambers took full advantage of it. Last year, played in 12 games at linebacker, had 47 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 1 interception, and two pass breakups, and 1 forced fumble. Not bad for your first year. Not first time playing linebacker in college. And those are your numbers? At a time you're not a consistent starter, but you're a bright spot and one of the guys people believe that the team can ride and get behind during crucial moments. He follows that up with a season this year. He's played in all 12 games so far. He has 69 tackles up from last year, 6 TFLs, 1.5 sacks, 1 interception. I believe that was a pick 6, 2 PBUs, 2 pass breakups, a fumble recovery, and that was a pick 6 that he had. And I believe that was during the Maryland game late in the 4th quarter. Steele Chambers is staying in school. I went through all that on purpose. It will be his 5th year, but I think for his growth, his future as a football player, if he wants to be a pro, and another year being a linebacker, 2 years, really a 3-year starter, but a 2-time full-time starter, I do think Steele Chambers getting more comfortable playing linebacker, the speed of the game, what's needed mentally to play the game, what's needed to read and react pre-snap and post-snap, all of those things. And I firmly think the NFL scouts, executives, coaches, I think they have provided some feedback probably to Ryan Day in this matter. Because Ryan Day wants to properly help his players make the proper decision about their future. And if it's in their best interest to go ahead and stay in school, why don't you just stay in school? It would be his 5th year. By now, you may say, Jay, is it really worth it? Absolutely. Here's Steele Chambers discussing how he thinks and what he thinks about this matter of him staying in school. Quote, I feel like I've progressed in just my knowledge of the game, but I think there's just a lot more that I need to learn. I feel like I'm pretty premature as far as like linebacker savviness. I sat and talked to my dad about it in the preseason. I always thought I was going to come back for a 5th year, especially after the position change. That's always just been my first option. And I think just after this year, that's what I'm going to stick with. End quote. I'm blown away I won't say blown away, but his thought process, the way he articulated that, and the way that he even before the season started was already thinking about what am I going to do at the end of these 12 regular season games, possibly a 13th in the Big Ten championship game. What am I going to do? My future. Is it staying at Ohio State? Is it going to the NFL? What is he going to do? And ultimately, I think that having Jim Knowles come in was a huge reason he's staying. Now, I do think there's wisdom, and he's using it preseason and early on, saying, I think that staying for a 5th year was always the move. Most guys don't think like that. They don't at all. If they are in Steele Chambers, they had his career. Steele Chambers redshirted in 2019. Kind of going through his progression and his mindset and some of the things that he went through to get to where he is now, and how he does have more years of eligibility than even I realized. 2019 was his freshman year, but also was a redshirt year, so that year does not count. 2020, redshirt freshman year, that year does not count because everybody got an extra year of eligibility in 2020 due to the COVID. So that year does not count. 2021, 3rd year playing football, was his first year using an actual year of eligibility. So technically this year he is technically a redshirt sophomore in his 4th year of playing the college football. So he has 2 more years of eligibility left. He could technically play 6 years of the college football. I don't think Steele Chambers stays through next year. I think next year is his final year as a Buckeye, as a college football player. I think he's going to, if Tommy Eichenberg leaves, I think Steele Chambers is the signal caller on defense. And I do believe if CJ Hicks I do think Hicks is probably the next man up, or maybe even Reed Carrico, depending on, or maybe even Sonny Styles. It really depends on what wrinkles and where they want to put Sonny Styles. If they want to put Sonny Styles at linebacker, it's a log jam. What do you do with CJ Hicks next year? What do you do with Reed Carrico next year? What do you do with Chip Tranum next year? There's a log jam right there. But I think this is great for Steele, great for Ohio State. And some of you might look at the recruiting at the linebackers and say, there aren't many linebackers in this recruiting class. You might get one, not many, because outside of Tommy Eichenberg, ain't nobody, well, probably ain't OT, but he don't really play. You're not really going to be losing many people. So the need or the desire to have 2 or 3 linebackers, one, you're playing one less linebacker, which means you're recruiting less guys. But then also, 2, there's no reason to bring in 5 when you're maybe only losing 1, maybe 2. Make the math make sense for the scholarships that are there, for the players that are in that room. Steele Chambers staying in school is great for Ohio State, but more importantly, it's great for the future of Steele Chambers. If he wants to play professionally, 1 more year at Ohio State playing linebacker will properly prepare him for the next level. We are out of here on this Thursday. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can send all of your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. One more show this week. My guy Jeff Hunt is scheduled to come and be on our show tomorrow. And NIL is a topic that I text Jeff about, and you guys don't want to miss about what Jeff has to say about NIL and Ohio State recruiting.